I forgot I hadn't started recording.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. We can get all the.
We already missed some impressions from Josh.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like I grew up on Looney Tunes and every Saturday morning was spent watching somebody try to blow somebody else up with a stick of dynamite.
Or someone would go running off a cliff then stop and then look down and look up with a little help sign and then fall.
The number of painted tunnels I've run through in my day.
I love opera, and I love when it comes up. It's like, how did you get into opera? Well, Bugs Bunny was wearing this thing. My mom's like, do you remember Barbara of Seville? I'm like, yes, that's the one with Bugs Bunny.
Something about kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Kill the wabbit, kill the... And the big... I love the scene where Bugs Bunny comes running down on the giant fat horse, and it's just beautiful. And it's just one of those things that just is like imprinted in my brain. And I'm like, I feel like this means something. If I can unlock this, I'd understand something deeper about myself. But mostly I think I just like Looney Tunes.
I love it because Wagner was so fucking pretentious. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely. Like, I don't think there has ever been a more pretentious human than Wagner. Mm-hmm. He redesigned the entire opera house because it had to be correct. There was an opera house in Germany that he designed from scratch because he had to be in control of absolutely freaking everything.
Jeez. Okay.
He had this idea of the total artwork. Yeah, he like basically invented the idea of the auteur. With being and he was like the only being who liked him was his dogs. Which
sweet dogs.
Dogs like anybody.
Yeah, right. And he actually like he one of his pieces is partly credited to his dog, because he would compose with his dog sitting beside him on the piano and be like, "What do you think?" But he was absolutely the most pretentious nightmare of a person.
Oh God!
So I think it is hilarious that that most people's enduring image of Wagner is Bugs Bunny on a fat horse with a fucking breastplate.
Feels good. Feels appropriate. I like it.
Mm-hmm. But the Barber of Seville one is the one where he's in the barber chair and he keeps pumping it up.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to my shop. Let me see your crop. Let me cut your mop. You're next.
Figaro, 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 Figaro.
All the way back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Now I just need some Honey Nut Cheerios to finish out the whole Saturday morning vibe.
Bring you full circle to right back. Yeah. Yep.
Hi, friends.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey, everybody.
And welcome to Muppet Sex and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube.
I'm Josh Gosdin. I'm a big old nerd.
And today we have special guest.
Hi, I'm Mainely Mandy. I'm a YouTuber. I do stand-up comedy. I do a lot of stuff. But most relevant, I am a huge Farscape nerd. And this is like my third episode, I think, now being on the podcast. So I'm really excited to be back.
Yay! Glad to have you back.
So what's everyone's favorite Looney Tune character?
Ooh.
Oh, geez. That's a hard one.
That's so hard. That's like choosing my favorite child.
Honestly.
I always really loved the Wile E. Coyotes and Roadrunner cartoons. Those were always my favorite. And I don't know who's my favorite of those two, if it's the Roadrunner or the Coyote. It's probably the Coyote, just because he was so expressive. And it was like, oh, buddy, maybe one day you'll get him. You won't, but there was something about.
I mean, I'm a purist. Obviously Bugs Bunny is always going to have my heart, but I love so many of the off characters. I mean, Foghorn Leghorn speaks to me on a deep spiritual level. I really enjoy Sylvester. Love Yosemite Sam as well, especially because I'm related to several people like him. it's just like I grew up on we were talking about this before we started. I grew up on Looney Tunes on Saturday mornings. Wake up early enough to turn them on and have my breakfast cereal in front of me. What about you, Sara?
Oh, I asked the question and then I don't know that I have an answer. I love Daffy Duck.
Yes.
And Bugs. I love and above all, I love the musical episodes. I love the opera episodes.
Absolutely, unquestionably.
So, Elmer Fudd is always a good foil for Bugs Bunny in those.
I'm sure you can find a filter to animate all of us for this episode.
We'll see. I don't want to use AI. But if any artists out there want to send us their drawings of us as Looney Tunes characters, you would have our eternal gratitude.
It does occur to me, I have rabbit ears. I could have put those on and pretend to be Bugs Bunny, but oh well. Too late.
I think there's probably a filter.
There probably is, but I'm too lazy to look one up.
I'm not.
Nope. I was like, no, I got
Perfect.
I do pretty regularly say Albuquerque in the Bugs Bunny voice. Albuquerque.
Yes, I made that wrong turn in Albuquerque.
Yep.
Okay, I wouldn't be able to take this so seriously if I kept that on the whole time. Okay, summary time. Revenging Angel was written by David Kemper and directed by Andrew Prouse. Dargo is test flying his new ship with John aboard when something goes wrong. Dargo loses it, accidentally knocking John unconscious, while the ship emits a pulse that disables Moya.
John enters his mind space, where Harvey demands he define his reason to live. John lists off the things he cares about.
Earth, Dad, pizza, sex, cold beer, fast cars, sex, Aaron, love.
But that isn't enough for Harvey. Revenge, he says. Live for revenge. Take revenge on Dargo. But John isn't into it. And since they're in his mind space, he turns Harvey into a Looney Tune.
How did you...
In the real world, Dargo is so angry and frustrated with himself that he throws his quilter blade into the chasm at the center of Moya.
That was mature.
That won't come back. Pilot has no control and limited data, but from what he can tell, Dargo's ship is going to blow and take Moya with them in less than an hour.
John wanders his mind space, as you do, asking his various shipmates how he should survive. As each of them make their suggestions, John tries them out in Looney Tune form. Pilot says, escape!
If I keep running, nothing can hurt!
Jules says, talk it out!
No.
Gianna says, outsmart him! Each time he has some success, but it inevitably fails spectacularly.
Did you think you could make up all the rules?
Speaking of failure, the crew cannot seem to find a way out of their predicament. And once again, Dargo is angry. This time he vents in old-timey Luxon, and what a coinkydink, but his ship understands old-timey Luxon. But it only speaks real old-timey Luxon. And Dargo is not one. Pilot makes some extra special translator microbes that give him enough of a language boost to understand some of it. The self-destruct is triggered, and wouldn't you know it, but one of the few things that will turn it off is a quilter blade. Like the one he tossed in Act 1.
John is almost out of options, so he may as well give revenge a go. But once again, it's close, but no cigar.
Sorry, Harv. No joy.
Time is almost out as the crew search desperately for Chekhov's quilter blade. At the last minute, Jewel, wading through waist-high khaki, literally trips over the thing. Can Dargo get it to the ship in time?
John has tried everything, but really, he knew all along what keeps him going. It's not revenge, or home, or even cold beer. It's love.
I love Aaron.
Dargo inserts the quilter blade into the ship's quilter blade slot, and the ship demands to know, who is he? He is Dargo, warrior and descendant of warriors, and the ship is at his command. The day is saved, and so is a conscious but groggy John. Later, John and Dargo have the heart-to-heart that they've been needing, cementing their bromance. They're all good, and...
That's all, folks!
So, general thoughts?
Well, let's start with the first thing we obviously have to talk about, cartoons. It's in the Looney Tunes style. It's amazing. I love the animation in this so much. And I feel like they do a really good job with like doing Farscape in the style of Looney Tunes, but they don't like necessarily go so far over the edge that it's like an exact like replica of it. I don't know. They do such a good job with being like, okay, that's obviously Dargo, that's obviously Aaron, that's John. You know, like John being animated, like sitting almost like on top of his spaceship with his little knees sitting out. Like it's just every decision in terms of the animation is great. I love it. I love the animation so much. They did a really good job with it.
Yeah. It wasn't so much that it was an animated episode as it was a perfect a perfect silly John episode.
Yeah.
You know, like I agree. I totally agree. They could have gone full, like, and given everybody their own animated avatar. But they didn't. They kept the animation specific to his conflict with Dargo. And then the rest of it was very much like just him kind of trying to process everything. We talked about it a little bit while we were watching it. But the pilot, Chiana Jewel, sort of took on a ego, superego kind of perspective with John, which I think was really fun. And then Harvey just absolutely being the butt monkey of this episode, to borrow a phrase from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, was just perfectly satisfying. It was fantastic. If you haven't subscribed to our Patreon yet, you can come along and see our live reaction as I was cracking up the entire time that we were watching this episode. It was fantastic.
And I will have the live reaction edited and up by now. Yeah, I just love this one. And I've got some background information on how they managed to pull this off.
Oh, yes.
So the animation was done by a company called Yoram Gross EMTV, okay, which was founded by the father of Guy Gross, the composer.
Okay.
And this is a particularly great episode for Guy Gross. So that's how they got in with an animation studio, but also some of the storyboards for the animated sequences, I'm reading from the wiki, were created by Star Toons directors Don McClellan, Don Griffiths, and David Pryor, who worked on Warner Brothers series Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, and Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, they brought in the experts.
So they brought in the experts to storyboard, and they brought in a computer. They brought in an animation studio that was connected to the musician, because holy hell, is this a good one for the composer?
Yeah, it is.
Like to me, it's the sound that makes the Looney Tunes. Like, you know, it's it's the way the cartoons and the sound go together, and the sound design on this is just so on point. Mm-hmm. It just makes everything.
We talked a little bit beforehand. We were gushing a little bit about the Wagner Looney Tune episode with Bugs and Elmer Fudd, and the Rabbit of Seville also. But just in general, one of the things that made Looney Tunes so fun and successful was the absurd attention to detail when it came to matching the animation to the sound design. You know, every single toe touch was met with a pluck on the piano, and it was always just so very melodic. I mean, it's in the name, it's Looney Tunes, and so for them to have that attention to detail in this episode and those animated segments really shows a lot of like love and care, and helped to make this episode feel so fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something Farscape does a lot of things well, obviously, but something when Farscape does its sort of pulp culture references, it always does it in this very loving way. Like, it clearly loves the material it is drawing inspiration from and the material that it is directly referencing. And so you can tell that they had just such a fun time putting together this episode, and that there was so much like care given because of how much respect they have for original Looney Tunes. And the fact that you're getting these very classic kind of like, oh, they're like on a, you know, they're not in the middle of the desert. It's technically like a piece of asteroid or something, but like they're on this like barren landscape, and someone's drawn something on the wall, but John can fly through it for cartoon reasons. Like it's great. I just love how much they are referencing Looney Tunes and doing the Looney Tunes style with so much care and love. And yeah, I really love that you're bringing up the music, because the music is amazing. Right up to the very end, the fact that like they have those little sound notes happening in time with not only the animated bits, but also like when Dargo's walking down the walk there towards John. And he's like hitting something, and he hits the rake first, and then he's like walking a little bit slower, and then he like walks into a bucket, and that slows him down. Like the music changes every single time, and it makes it funnier. It makes it even funnier, and that's exactly what Looney Tunes did.
And it's the little kick sound.
Yeah. All the sounds.
The special surprise cameo of having Aaron show up in one of the Moya episodes, because they're split right now, but having her show up as Jessica Rabbit, like 10 out of 10, no notes, great fantasy, John, well done.
And then her like spinning around and changing into the different outfits, and he's like, "Oh, can you do the Sharon Stone thing?" And no,
and she's like roasting him the entire time, and she's like, "Really, is this what you want, John?"
And it's his mind's version of Aaron who reads the wrong Shakespeare, and he points it out. and then Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
Just no.
Because John is a Gen Xer, so he's a Gen Xer who grew up apparently in the American South.
It is. It is what it is. It's amazing. And
talking a little bit more about the music, at the very end of the episode, John's floating in there, and he's saying that stuff to Dargo, but like, dude, you're my bro, it's all good. And he looks around, and they have like the last little bit of animated, and you have that musical score underneath. That's very much that animated music that they've been using throughout. But then it slowly transitions as they go into the credits, into the credit music for Farscape. And I just love it. It's so seamless. Like when I was watching it, or like I rewatched it earlier today, I had that moment of like, oh wow, I forgot how just like good it just like transitions right. It's not jarring in the least bit. It's so smooth.
Also, props to Farscape for once treating a head injury as serious as head injuries can be. John literally just falls over and bonks his head, but he's on death's door, and that's how head injuries work sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas any number of other shows, and I mean even any number of other episodes of Farscape, somebody gets whacked on the back of the head with a pistol, and they wake up after the commercial break, and they're like, "Oh, my head! Let's fight!"
Right.
Not quite how that works.
So it's still a little bit of a silly head injury in the sense that like it gets solved by John just remembering he loves Aaron. Like that's it's still a little on the campier side, but I still love it. I'm still into it.
I'll always jump in with the power of love. That is a trope that is campy and unrealistic and gets me every time.
It's still a fictional world, and we could hand wave it as being he just needed some time for the swelling to go down, but that is much less interesting than being like, no. He had to remember that it's love. Yeah. So let's dig into it, because I think this is also a really great exploration of character.
It is. I agree.
So
shall we discuss John's journey or Dargo's journey first?
Ooh, I almost want to talk about Dargo for a bit.
Okay, let's talk about Dargo's journey.
Take it away, Mandy.
Okay, so this is interesting because like Dargo is clearly not dealing with his emotions very well. So when he thinks at all, and he's admittedly gone through a bit of some stuff this season, so fair. But like he has this big explosion at John at the beginning, thinking that he's done something wrong, which hurts John to the point where he almost dies, like literally almost dies. And then we kind of see like throughout the episode, Dargo just like, he's still being kind of combative. He's still yelling at people. He's like not really talking and communicating very well. And it takes Jewel coming to him to be honest with him, and him kind of like hearing how upset she was, and the fact that she's trying to like bridge that gap of communication that is there, that he kind of like has that moment of like, oh, there are people here who care about me. I need to stop having these like huge walls up. The anger obviously isn't helping. And that sort of brought up to at the very end of the episode when John's talking to him and Dargo's saying, I'm so sorry. I have this anger. I have this rage. I'm not dealing with it. And John's like, well, you just got to find a way to deal with it, buddy. Like, I care about you, but like, you got to find those healthy outlets. And it is a really good arc for Dargo to be reminded that there are people who care about him. There are healthier ways to express your anger other than, nearly killing somebody. And also don't throw your quilted blade off of a tier, because maybe you're going to need it later to keep a ship from exploding. There's a lot of lessons, a lot of important lessons.
That's the kind of life lesson that I grew up on, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we love men who get to process their emotions in fiction, especially early 2000s fiction. And it's interesting too, because it addresses a lot of the stuff that he just had to like fly past at the beginning of the season, related to Chiana and his son making terrible choices because of the writers, and all of the trauma of losing Zahn, and Aaron died, and Aaron came back to life, and then they split up, and is this my friend John, or is this some weird alien John, and all that kind of stuff, like all that stuff that admittedly he has gone through a lot and has had plenty of reasons to postpone his own emotional processing, or at the very least excuses to postpone his own emotional processing. But finally, when you accidentally shove your buddy into a coma, that's really the best time to really sit down and do some reflecting, and do some inner child work or something. But like, he's just so doggone determined to tie his worth to his deeds, and every time he makes a mistake, or every time somebody does something to him or against him, it sort of validates that, I got myself captured again. I'm not worthy of your friendship, John, or I thought if I could get this ship that I wouldn't be alone, and like whatever it is that he's telling him inside of his own head. But then everybody around him, like you said, Mandy, just keeps showing him like, no, like, we're here for you. We've been here this whole time for you. It's lovely.
Yeah, I really enjoy the fictional trope where you take everything from a character and just like take all their props and all their things away, so just to kind of see who you are when you have lost all the things that you sort of think of as would define you. And like, but we really, it's like, it's the Buffy moment, right? Take all that away, what is there left? Me. That is probably one of the best scenes to ever do that. And I feel like that's what this episode is doing for Dargo. He says in the beginning, I have no wife, I have no son, I have no nothing. And then his quilted blade is so much of his identity, and he throws that away. And he's lost his best friend. He thinks he's killed his best friend, and he throws away this blade that is the symbol of everything, that of his heritage that he's been holding on to for so long. And then he has to rely on others to help him get it back. And then the ship asks him, "Who are you?" Sort of that question. And yes, he gives his name and his ancestors, but there is just sort of there's something to the when everything is stripped away, who are you? And he is the person who has learned to rely on his friends, and he is the person who values his ancestry and has reclaimed his sword with others' help, and who is trying to save his friends. And and then has to have that talk with John to really, they're like romancy makeup talk.
Yeah, you said it really well, Sara, when we were doing the reaction also, of like this, or maybe it was when we were talking to Jesse recently, but like the split here is really exploring John's two biggest relationships, Aaron and Dargo. The romance and bromance. So I appreciated that they did that. They took the time to do that in this episode and explore it from Dargo's side. Because very often John is our POV character, but actually getting like a Dargo POV was nice.
It's also nice to have an episode where it's not really on John to like be the hero, which I think Farscape is pretty good about. But like a lot of times, John is at least involved. Sometimes it's his plan that they try and it goes wrong, and like he's obviously our flawed main character most of the time. But it's kind of fun when we get to see like it's like Dargo and Chiana and Jewel are the ones who are stepping up, and like which feeds into the greater themes of the show about this is a little found family. They can rely on each other, they can communicate with each other, they can trust each other and be honest with each other in a way that maybe you can't always do with normal family or other people, unfortunately. So like the fact that John is just dealing with his own thing right now, which is his little mindscape and everything, but meanwhile in the real world everybody is doing their part and it's okay. Like he can focus on getting well and they are going to take care of stuff like that. That's really nice. And that's a lesson I need to remember sometimes because I'm not always good about that.
I mean, same, like accepting love and help from others, accepting unqualified friendship and relationship. Like, come on. You mean I don't have to earn the love around me? I can just accept the gifts that are given to me. What the hell is that?
Sounds fake. Don't trust it. No.
Probably is,
Yeah.
Self-worth is fun.
And I love that, like, we've got sort of the relationship that they have had kind of mirrored in the girls, because they have been the two have been catfighting. Like John and Dargo have been catfighting even the last episode that we had with the two of them. And through this, we see the girls fighting to the point where where John gets dropped on the floor.
I love that scene so much. Like, first of all, the fact that they're able to do that so well, like the overlapping talking and still like remember their lines, like it's just so good. And it's the progression of it's so funny because they're like, they're just going down one way, they're going down the other. At one point they throw it and they're just yelling at each other and they reach the crescendo. And then Dargo's like, ladies, excuse me. It's so good. What were you doing? Having a conversation. Like, it's just so fucking funny every time. I love it.
Even the live action scenes are still cartoonesque.
Oh, they are. It's all cartoony all the way down.
Talking about pushing a character to extreme, he has literally pushed John away. And then in that scene tries to sort of emotionally offer to push him away by saying, that demands revenge. And it's just like, there is nothing that would make me take revenge on you. Like, nothing he does, no matter how hard he pushes away, John is not going anywhere. And I love everything Anthony Simcoe does in this episode, but that his sort of response to recognizing that nothing he does will ever push John away.
It's right here.
It really does.
It does. And it's nice too to see that reflected in some of the other character interactions as well. Like Jewel is the one who ultimately was responsible for what happened with the ship. She went in there, her hair got into stuff because her hair gets everywhere. But she's honest with Dargo and says, I'm really sorry. I did this because I was trying to bridge that gap and to try and communicate with you because I really like you. And I want us to have a friendship or have something, right? And which is very sweet. I do like their little thing they do. But like it's interesting that Dargo is accepting of that. And he goes, you know what? Thank you for making the effort. He says that. And you're just like, aw, that's growth on Dargo's end. That, not only are his friends accepting him and when he makes mistakes, but on the other side, he's trying to do that too, because it's been modeled for him. And it's like, this is positive masculinity right here. I love it. Yes. More of this, please. And good for Jewel, like that she was honest and is doing that. Yeah. He just almost killed a guy. Like the fact that she's honest. I mean, I don't know if I would have been, honestly.
Yeah, that's my fault, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
and like she is like a princess girl, and yet she does wade through the khaki for them.
She does.
Jewel in this episode is probably this might be my favorite episode with Jewel in it so far because she's chilled out. considerably since she got on the ship. She's a lot less like, none of you know what you're doing, and what the hell are you doing? And let me scream real quick and shatter metal. And much more like actually seems like a person. And it's been a progression for sure. And I recognize that at least part of that is development from the fact that whatever she went through before getting frozen probably fucked her up a little bit. And then coming out of it and being thawed out and getting to know these random people that are like, stay or go, we don't care. And she's like, why are you keeping me here? Then it's, coming to this point now where she's choosing to engage, she's choosing to connect. And it's really sweet. And it's really endearing. And it's putting Chiana in this weird, like, mature position.
Yeah.
Chiana is the older sister now, where that Zahn used to be for her. And it's really, really sweet to watch.
Yeah, I like that Chiana kind of grows up a little bit this season. And part of that, I think, is like you just said, like it's definitely part of her relationship with Jewel kind of being now like, oh, she's like, she has seniority over Jewel, essentially. I mean, she's been here longer, obviously. Yeah. But there's also the psychic visions that she's having, I think is also kind of making her like she's having to, Chiana, one of the most impulsive characters on the show, now has to think about the future. And I think that kind of forces her to grow up a little bit more too. It's like she's, they're doing this. It's a small vision, but they're looking for the sword, and she's like, oh yeah, watch out for the falling metal. Like, watch out, you might get hurt. Like that's a big deal. The fact that she'd actually even care to tell Jewel.
Thinking about others, thinking about the future. It's lovely.
Well, last season she had to let go of her past when she had to let go of not being able to go after her brother.
Yeah.
And all the pain of that. And so I think, to be, and then to lose her mentor and Zahn, and then to have Aaron off the ship. So like she has to step up a bit, and she does. And then this, like, the most impulsive character ever has to deal with the power of foresight.
And it helps her. It chills her out. Also.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, Luxon Hyper Rage. I have been dogging on Luxon Hyper Rage since we started this damn podcast. Since it was episode 4 or something like that, where out of the fucking nowhere, the teaser of the episode opened with Dargo in the middle of Luxon Hyper Rage, rampaging through the ship. And everybody was like, what's going on? And they're like, it's Luxon Hyper Rage. And John was like, what? And then Dargo left the ship, and that was the plot.
It was just a way to get the plot started.
It was, and it bothered me when we talked about that episode, and then I just kind of like kept poking at it ever since, because it's always still hanging fruit. But in this episode, I appreciated it because it had some, and I've been kind of reflecting on why I liked it better, other than the fact that it didn't kickstart the plot necessarily. But it was much more grounded in Dargo's character than this sort of internal character MacGuffin that just sort of popped out of nowhere. Like, Dargo's hyper rage in this episode was triggered, from my reading, by the repression of the emotions, the ones that he's not been dealing with, like we've been talking about, and then finally snapping, finally like boiling over. So it had much more. I don't know. It was grounded, and it was understandable, and it was reasonable, and it wasn't just like fade in Darko rampages.
I think to me it's a bit allegorical of certain mental health stuff, where it just makes it more difficult for you to deal with impulses and things, or even like I've just been going through perimenopause for a while, which is very, very fun. And your impulse control suddenly returns to teenagehood. And it's like, I did a stupid thing. Oops, I did a stupid thing. But like that sort of thing where, your rational mind for something about your body, or the sort of emotional part of your brain or something decides to take control, and just how incredibly frustrating that is when, like, how to be rational, sensible person, but something makes it harder for you in that moment than you think it should, and that it would be for typical people, you know?
It's like, a barrier, that gets introduced.
Yeah, and you're just like, why the fuck is my brain broken that it does this? And so there's like anger at like yourself and the thing and the world and everything, and it's just kind of like no, I don't want to be this way, and then the sort of regret and frustration that you sit in afterwards. So yeah, I think hyper rage kind of, although it's kind of a silly thing, but also kind of does sort of work as an allegory for something real when you don't feel control over your urges in the way and in your emotions, the way that you see other people having control over your emotions. And it's something about you, like the way he talks about warrior heritage being a curse. Because it's science fiction, so we have to essentialize some character trait to an alien heritage. But it's an allegory. That's what allegory does. So yeah, I don't know. That was a thing that I was thinking of.
I like that. I appreciate that perspective.
Does it make hyper rage a little less?
in this episode, yes. In the no, I can't forget the first one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because whenever you Sara was just saying about essentializing like an emotion into like an alien like personality trait, you get into some like weird territory. It starts to get a little uncomfortable. It's like, oh yes, all Luxans are always angry deep down, and all all Hynerians are actually greedy. It's like we got to be a little careful with those kind of things, right? Anyway, and I think it was probably smart of Farscape to kind of like not go back to the hyper rage until they had something more solid to have this more solid reasoning behind it. Like, yeah, this is building up, and part of why it's building up is because he hasn't been dealing with it. He's been repressing, and he's been distracting, and he's been dealing with the next couple of fires because it's Farscape, and there's always a fire happening, sometimes literal ones. So, it makes complete sense for the character that suddenly this tiny thing that really doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things is the thing that just like sets him off. And he's just building and he's yelling and he's not listening to John as John's going, hey, there's something going on with the ship. Like that whole sequence is kind of great. Because the hyper rage, it feels more realistic in that moment. Because like who hasn't had a moment where you're maybe just really upset and you just cannot hear anything, or it's like, like you're talking about, it's like your brain shuts down, and it's so it's a lot more rooted in reality than I think that previous episode was, where he was just very angry, running around the ship, and then just left for a while, and then the plot kicks off. This was a lot more in line with character motivation than plot.
That was the same. That was Thank God It's Friday again, right? That was the same episode.
Yes, that's okay. Really,
where he blows the back out of that one girl over and over.
You mean he inserts his Colta blade into the right spot?
Well, she was limbering up, so she was prepared for it.
That was a weird episode.
Because
that's also Rigel Pissed Fire in that episode, right?
Yes, that's the Rigel Pisses Fire episode.
And it's the one that gives us the whole, those dreams are built.
We get some fascist imagery foreshadowed for the Peacekeepers too, I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind that use of hyper rage now that we have this, because to me, like, yes, this is me sort of headcanon, but it feels like that's what this would look like from the outside if you didn't understand what was going on.
Valid. I'll take that.
So it's like we got, and at that point in the series, nobody understands each other. So yes, that is me doing the work to fill it in, but it works, doesn't it? Like when you think about it.
I think that's that makes sense.
We can code Dargo a few things, and one of the things that most frequently gets coded as is some kind of representation of masculinity. Usually, I guess recovering toxic masculinity. the way that his character has been evolving. Like you guys have both said, like for sure, there have been times in my life where I've done a really bad job dealing with what's going on around me, and then I'm writing something and the pencil lead breaks, and I'm like, that's it, we're done. And one of the things that has helped me, and that clearly has been helping Dargo, has been having the opportunity to practice before you get to that point, managing the emotions as they come up,
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's reflected, I think, in him being able to accept Jules' apology and also appreciate her gesture.
I had this roommate in my 20s who had rage issues. And one of the things that he did is he would lose it only on inanimate objects. But he was known to have done things like run a VCR through with a broadsword.
Sure.
Okay.
He was a good guy, and he sort of like he had to find ways to manage his to manage his rage.
Yeah.
And sometimes that meant that inanimate objects died. But only it'd be like, can I buy the VCR so I can destroy it?
He must love rage rooms. He must have been their first customer when rage rooms started becoming a thing. He was like, me.
I imagine he was. We'd lost touch by that point because he went down a conspiracy rabbit hole, unfortunately. But
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it was. But it was actually really good for me to we had a bit of a John and Dargo kind of friendship, and it was really good for me to be around somebody who vented off anger, because I've been raised in a house where you do not show anger. Right. Because that would lead to conflict, and we do not want conflict. So to actually have to experience being around someone who had to like process their anger by doing something, but also like I was like, no, you are not going to put broadswords through things in my house.
It's important to have boundaries.
So we sort of had to balance, you sort of balance each other out a bit. I think it was good for both of us. But yeah, Dargo a little bit makes me think of Tom. So that's Dargo's side of things. Shall we talk about John and his mindscape?
Yes.
Talk about John.
Let's talk about John. It is kind of interesting because John's journey feels a lot simpler, but it's not like it's not anything important too. You know what I mean? Like he's going through it in a very silly processing way. I guess it's a little different than what Dargo's dealing with. Like, well, okay. I'm having several thoughts at once. Sorry. So they're both dealing with imminent death. Dargo's is like an outside force. John's an internal force. So it kind of makes sense that, his is all John's side of things. It's this like kind of Looney Tune adventure because it is an entirely internal conflict for him. What's the thing that is worth living? And of course, Harvey and some of the other voices potentially in his head are kind of maybe leading him in the wrong direction and distracting him from the most important thing, which is that he's in love with Erin, of course. And I think that's interesting, how the way that he needs to process that is through Looney Tunes, which is very, we all watch Looney Tunes. It's usually very violent and silly, and it's not necessarily the kind of show that you think about, oh yeah, the true message of that was that love finds a way. It's usually like the true message of that was that Bugs Bunny is the smartest person and you don't mess with him.
Right.
That's usually the moral,
Yeah. That puts Harvey in the Elmer Fudd category for this particular episode, which I'll also gleefully enjoy. I don't know. It's really cool to look at how far John has come. He's started off at the beginning of season 1, when he first popped out of the wormhole, very just, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know why I'm here. I'd love to find a way home. Or if I could find a way home, I need to find a way home. And now it's evolving into, I've made a home for myself. I've created a home and I've found this family. And his reason for going on is not Earth anymore. It's not getting home. It's not the Farscape 1 project. It's this new love that he's found and that he's been able to cultivate. So that's also really sweet. This episode is a good character check episode. It's also really sweet like that because it's, love is a many splendored thing. And I just love love. I'm a sucker for love, honestly.
Yeah. And I think it's great that we go from love as part of the Letterman list. It's just love. It's just Aaron and love. And it's just like we go the journey, it's sort of like we go all the way around to come back to the same place with better understanding, which is another one of my favorite kinds of plots. It's just like you go back to the same place, but you're a different person. And I love that we get to see how he views all the other characters. And like we get a bit of like what everybody's central motivation is as far as John understands them. And then that gives him the center of nope, this is mine. Yeah.
Well, and even kind of the options that he cycles through in his mindscape, sort of it reflects his journey up until that point, because the revenge angle that Harvey keeps trying to push on him was very much at the root of John's conflict with Grace before Talon, and a lot of the other kinds of like for the betterment of all mankind, all that kind of stuff that gets tossed at him randomly as well. Also some of the second season journey and stuff like that. And so now, here is where he is, and he's found a home, he's created a home. I really appreciated the other allusions as well, and that they actually talked about Captain Kirk a couple of times.
We even saw the Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. Just zipping across. That was fun.
Yep.
And I'm very much on the same page as our friend Ren, the Barbarian, the YouTuber. That a lot of the way that Kirk is commonly understood in modern zeitgeist is very much an inflated, flanderized kind of picture of him as this serial womanizer, 60s James Bond kind of thing, when in actuality Kirk was mostly a sensitive bookworm, as he was portrayed in the original series, when he wasn't punching people. But even John rejecting this, for him especially, archetypal heroic character as somebody to aspire towards, and him being like, no, like Kirk was still fiction. I'm a real person, which is one of my favorite tropes in fiction. And the fictional character is like, this is real life. Because I'm a real person. Yeah. And I get to make my own choices. And I don't want to choose revenge. Like, that's not how I want to live. It's not who I want to be. Even if that could be the fuel, because he tries it. Even if that could be the fuel for me living, that's not how I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love a this is the kind of person, man, I want to be speech.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I am choosing to be who I choose to be. That's just specifically delight me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really I like that speech a lot. And I think it's noteworthy too. We're talking about how you mentioned, Josh, about how, John's primary motivation used to be going to Earth. And one of the times that John gets really seriously, like mentally injured during his little mindscape situation, he draws the wormhole and you can see Earth in the middle of it. And then when he tries to fly into it, that's when it crashes. He's a real person again. The other Dargo kills him, and that brings him close to death again. But then when he remembers that he loves Aaron and he feels better, it's like Aaron's his new home. That's his the new purpose. And that's very much reflected in what you were just talking about. Yeah.
Oh, but that sequence also, like, remember what the last episode was? Yeah. The last episode opens with an image of a wormhole with Earth around it and ends with, a crash and flames and death. So
yes, it was devastating, Sara. Thank you.
Like we're having this like amazing, fun episode. It's like, hey, remember this?
I was here to have a good time and not get sad, but sure, let's bring that up. Yeah, okay.
And then I just did the thing and brought it up. No,
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like this episode's such a good, that's another reason why I like this episode much, is like that episode is devastating. And then you get this one and you're like, okay, I get to laugh again. It's all good. We're fine. We're definitely fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
We still have a John. We still have a Harvey.
Yeah. We have a John and Harvey. We're okay.
Yeah. Yes. One of my favorite silly little details is the continuous misspelling of astronaut.
I also like the misspelling of beer, and there was something else. I feel like there was another one that was misspelled, but yeah, I like when you see the beer, it says BEIER.
Yeah. It's German beer, and the tombstone reads astronaut.
Yep.
I like that they made all the Acme products.
Born loser.
Yeah. I like they made all the Acme products, Osme products.
Yeah, Osme.
This is Australia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and also
1,000 tiny details.
There are so many good details. The tombstone, the natural born loser at the bottom. I love all of Harvey's outfits, by the way, in this episode. Like I love cartoon Harvey. Cartoon Harvey was very funny. But I also really liked him in the scrubs when he's like trying to find something to like resuscitate him with. So he just grabs a bucket of water. And then also the funeral outfit that he's wearing at the end when he's standing by John's tombstone. Yeah, Harvey pulls off a suit. He really does.
Some of the I guess the cheese of the camp is a little unavoidable. I don't know about either of you two, but I have never, in a dramatic fit of rage and self-loathing, flung something away that I was holding in my hands. The way that Dargo does the quilted blade. Okay. It's difficult to do authentically in fiction. It's so difficult to do authentically in fiction because it almost always looks like what it is, which is a plot point. Like it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look authentic when he's like, oh, and then throws it down.
And then it just flies away so balletically.
Exactly.
No, there's been a couple books that pissed me off enough I threw them against walls, but it didn't look that dramatic.
Yeah, I've definitely had moments of like, maybe I'm like, I have something in my hand, I'm already frustrated, and then like you can't get it to go the way you want. You just kind of go, I've definitely done that before. But yeah, it definitely didn't look nearly as dramatic. It wasn't in the slow-mo. It was over very quickly, and then I usually had to walk away afterwards.
There's in a lot of, and this is me reaching for a nitpick in an otherwise glorious episode. In a lot of like fictional portrayals of that, there's like this like pictures wind up of like as they throw it away, and it's so just over the top melodramatic campy.
It reminds me of have you ever seen a movie in 3D that was clearly meant to be in 3D?
Yes.
You know, like when I saw, what was it? Was it Clash of the Titans, I think? Or there was one of the remakes I saw where it was just so obvious that they were making a 3D movie because they would do things like, oh, wow, look at that. Yoink. And it was that very unnatural style. And that's kind of what Dargo's throwing of the, like, if I had been wearing 3D glasses, it would have come right at me, man, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely doing the remember this, it will be important.
Oh no, the plot MacGuffin's going over there.
That's literally my only gripe with this episode. This episode was just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
I had a blast with it.
Yeah. It was just so good. I mean, for I love the little moments of people as John perceives them. So I love like, you're very wise. Well, I don't get out much, so I read.
Yeah. Pilot.
But also the real pilot dealing with Jewel.
Yes.
And just the eyebrow work that they got that puppet to do.
Also, the real pilot in perfect pilot form, just being immediately self-sacrificing of like, well, you should all leave and abandon me and Moya. And they're like, we're not doing that. Like you've said that so many times. We're not doing that.
They didn't even consider it for a second. They're just sort of like, fine, we'll just like push Brighton into the thing just in case. But like, yeah, we're busy. We're not doing that.
I think one of my favorite lines is Jewel says, "Are we going to die?" And Shauna says, "Yes. Do you have the Mivox to push the date back a bit?" Perfect.
Yeah. Because I think the first time she asked, she goes, "Yes, eventually." Anyway.
Right.
We're busy. Let's keep going.
But yeah, yes, we are going to die. Let's push the date back.
Yeah.
Because in a way, that's all they've been doing, and in a way, that's kind of all we do. Is sort of like if you can survive the latest thing, it's the best we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, very mature, but still just Gianna. It's still very Gianna.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exasperated, like, I'm in the middle of things right now. Can you not?
Well, every time she says children, she's just like, children. It's a slightly like, she almost looks at the audience and goes, "Can you believe these children?" Like in a sitcom almost, but it works. Yeah.
But Josh, you had a great observation about Chiana and Jewel when we were watching the episode.
You'll have to refresh me on it.
I think you told them they should just kiss at one point.
Oh, yes.
When they were getting like this close, when they were yelling at each other.
When they were yelling and arguing, I was like, just kiss, guys.
Yes. Get rid of that sexual tension. Just do it.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah, we need the sexual tension alert. Ding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a little bell.
Any theme stuff you want to talk about? Or
theme stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything actually, because I think we kind of covered it with talking about the parallels of the growth of communication, kind of recognizing your people. I feel like is a big part of this episode too, like kind of like that, like being reminded or maybe just being reminded that yes, you have friends who care about you, whether you are the pilot of a living ship. That yes, obviously we're not going to abandon you, pilot, because we love you. We're going to try and save your life, obviously.
Yeah.
Or
we never cut off one of your arms or anything.
Well,
it's crazy.
He grew him back. It's fine. That's when they still didn't really know each other.
Sure. Acquaintances.
Or the other side of that of like, oh yeah, friend, you did hurt me and I did almost die, but you're still my bro. It's all good. Just dab me through the window. It's all good.
Then that reminds me that we have been told before. We were told in that episode that Luxons don't apologize.
We've been told lots of the times Luxons don't apologize, and
yet he does.
He keeps apologizing.
Well.
Yeah.
He definitely he's made plenty of Luxons do, Luxons don't, Luxons are kind of declarative things, and then does it. Or doesn't do it, or whatever. Like he demonstrates the opposite of whatever it is, because ultimately he's not just a Luxon, he's Darko.
It may be just kind of a Luxon version of Boys Don't Cry.
Maybe a social construct of some kind.
Yes. It might, in fact, be bullshit.
That's maybe.
Or batshit, since we, that's what we had today.
I obviously want to be careful not to get into spoiler territory here, but can we also just talk about how cool it is that Dargo has this awesome ship now?
Oh, yes.
Yes, so cool.
I'm just happy. I just like his ship, that's all. And it's just kind of a fun thing that he has now, and it might be relevant in future plot points that I will not say anything more about.
Yeah, he's got himself a sweet ride.
Don't worry, this show never really follows up on anything it does. It's all very episodic.
It's all
Threads
very
are
singular,
dropped all the time. Yeah,
dropped all
absolutely.
the time. Yeah, definitely.
Wait, would you like Josh to make a guess what he will name the ship, or just give the ship a name until we find out what he names it?
I would a season ago I would have said he was going to call it the Joffy. Now he might call it Joffy Sucks.
Josh, I love that so much. Joffy Sucks. 6969.
Yeah, hashtag Jothy sucks.
Yeah. Yes, suck it, Jothy.
I don't know. I can't remember what's the name of his wife.
Lolan.
Lola. That's a lovely ship name.
Okay.
You're all terrible at this.
No, damn it.
Sara's usually better. You're a bad influence.
I wasn't good. My poker face was very much lacking today.
Well. Anybody got anything else?
This was just and timing wise as well, and just when Sara and I watched it, this was exactly the perfect episode for me. I loved it.
It was the perfect episode for me too. I think both of you are aware. I'm going to my grandmother's funeral tomorrow, so I really wanted something fun to do today, and this was exactly the right episode and the right way to spend my afternoon, evening. So yeah, this is a kind of a great episode to watch. Like, what's the purpose of life again? I need to be reminded. Yes, purpose of life, loving people you love.
The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
I don't know.
Satara that always speaks the truth. I'm sorry for your loss, Mandy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been having a rough time lately too. So this was a good episode.
Yeah,
thanks, Sara.
I love this episode. I watched it before we recorded, and I just laughing my face off, literally laughing out loud. It's the things like when he pulls the tree over and it bounces, and then the waves, and then the little leaf.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's every detail of that to the music. It's just it's so good. It's just so good. And I think, and this is the episode that gives us love science fiction. So, how about we look at some comments?
Sure.
Ooh, we look at
comments? Have people been talking to little old us?
Yes. From Relativity, Rose tells us, Sara, don't ever say masculinity soup again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rose Harless.
Masculinity soup. Sounds like a name of a band.
And from Scratch and Sniff, Chick Flick Guru tells us, I usually have to listen on my commute, but there's no way I'm doing this the first time without visuals.
Yes.
And Jenny Toon asks about Scratch and Sniff again. Is there any chance that John was making up the whole crazy story as an excuse? It's possible.
It's definitely possible. Like it's just ambiguous enough that it could be.
Yeah. I think the episode sets that joke possibility up for sure. Mm-hmm. Of like being so hungover the next morning that you've got to tell, no, dude, you would never believe.
You never believe what happened. Yeah. Especially because like when he walks back over to Dargo's like, what did you say about a slim duck? He's saying slam dunk. So the fact that he said that, I feel like makes it like, okay, maybe parts of the story were exaggerated or maybe not quite what we heard. But then again, weirder things have happened to these people. So maybe it did happen. Who knows?
Sure.
From Relativity, again from Rose Harless, I fully admit I might be projecting, but I read an internal conflict in Zelek's son. I felt that she wanted Aaron to kill her. Not only would it have saved Zelek from having to kill her daughter, but she would have been proud.
Yep. I think that's a pretty valid reading as well. I think that this, so far anyway, she's a very conflicted character. I mean, she's having to hunt down her own daughter and only doing that because she was forced at one point to kill her lover and was taught that lesson when she killed her lover of like peacekeepers before anybody. There's no bros before hoes way of saying that. Peacekeepers before family. Peacekeepers before love. Peacekeepers before anybody. But that has to sit.
Got a fash, and they'll put the state before all.
Yeah, duty before anything else.
You can cover up the wound, or you can cover up the lump of coal that's inside of your heart that comes from those kinds of terrible things that are done or that you have done, but they're still there. And so, yeah, maybe looking into the eyes of her lover's child, of her daughter, and saying, like, kill me, put me out of my misery.
Also, fascism is a death cult.
Mm-hmm.
Gay Cat Attack, which is a terrific screen name.
Love it.
Says about Incubator, I really love this episode. The shot at the end where Scorpius has the flower from where his mom's ship landed always reminds me of the small line that Harvey says in Wait for the Wheel. Why is it always the gentle ones that pay the price for everyone else's ambition? So interesting to see a character who's experienced this kind of ambition firsthand and will still commit horrible acts to achieve his own. Definitely one of my top 3 episodes as an incurable Scorpius fan. Yep.
I've had the notion for a while that there's at least 2 kinds of people in the world, and then I saw on social media somebody said it a little better. A hero is somebody that bad things happen to, and they say, I will never let these things happen to anybody else. And a villain is somebody who bad things happen to, and they say, I will never let these things happen to me again.
Yeah.
That's spot on.
Relativity context wrench tells us if heaven only has a stairway, I ain't going, and gives a little disability symbol.
I think Led Zeppelin will be able to help you out there.
Yeah, I'm sure that maybe there must be an elevator to heaven somewhere. Maybe that's the remix.
The music itself will lift you up.
There you go.
And finally, from Incubator, from Molly Mockery, my favorite part of this episode is probably the neural clone of John. I'm very curious how much of John is in the neural clone. He has many of John's best and worst qualities. He's deeply compassionate, stubborn, impatient, and curious. He also lacks some of the unhinged energy that John was exhibiting close to the end of last season, when the chip was removed. This doesn't feel like a third John, equal and original, but it also feels more than a digital copy, almost like the chip tapped into the core of who John Crichton is and created an idealized version of him. Second place goes to Braca's pleased little smile when Scorpius told him that his recent performance had been exemplary. And we're not going to talk about why. It was a good observation. Yeah, the various aspects of John's personality that we see in the clone that is a little different than John.
Well, and maybe the chip also had like an emotional filter, because the whole goal was information gathering. Toned him down a little bit.
And yeah, we all know that Braca appreciates his attaboys from Scorpius for
yes, he does. He likes being his good boy.
Sure. No kink shaming.
No, not at all.
No.
If I was going to be a kink shaming person, I would not watch Farscape. Not the show for a person who isn't comfortable with at least some kink.
Yep. Yeah. So, you ready to learn the title of the next episode?
Sure. What do we got?
Choices.
Oh, fuck.
Do you have any predictions?
Either somebody's going to die or somebody's going to have to kill.
Okay.
Because of the way this season has been treating me.
It is the season of death.
Yes.
It sure is.
And we're not finished with the season.
Yeah, like we already killed the fucking main character in the middle of the season. Granted, we've got another one, but still.
We killed the main character at the start of the season. Basically.
Yeah, this season's been putting me through it. It's okay then.
And we have a whole nother season and a mini-series to go. So, What's your favorite part? Starting with Mandy as our guest.
Oh, that's so hard. I think I think my favorite part is the bit where Dargo's it's like the live revenge plot that Harvey wants, and Dargo's walking down and he's stepping on the rake and he's stepping in the bucket and all that. That whole bit is just so funny to me every time, like especially because of the music. Just perfect.
Yeah, that's a high contender for me too. I appreciate it from an artistic perspective that they inserted the gag of Dargo running off a cliff and John telling him to look down, and that's when he falls.
Yeah,
that is a special near and dear cartoon trope that is only accessible in those circumstances. But I think that for me, it's probably John and Dargo's little reconciliation as John is Major Tomming it outside of the window. And he and Dargo get to talk, and Dargo gets to be vulnerable, gets to process his emotions. So that's my favorite part. Sara?
Can I say the music?
Yes, you can. You say what?
I mean, it's like either the music or just everything Anthony Simcoe does, because it's just
he's so good.
He's so great. Good, and like he does so much with his eyes,
which is how you play a live action cartoon.
Yeah, but it's also like the emotion that he gives in the final scene. So much of it is about his eyes. It's just like, I guess when you cover an actor's face up with all that stuff.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, he's covered in prosthetics, but he still manages to emote with like the little bit of his face that is left,
and the voice. But yeah, like when his tentacle falls off. Like just the image of his tentacles being blown up like that is one thing, and then one of them he blinks and one of them falls. I lose it every time.
It's very good.
And of course, Erin's animation of herself. And one thing we didn't mention is she's the only one who doesn't give him advice. She asks him what he wants to do.
Oh, it really is love.
That is a good detail.
Yeah. So, if nobody can think of anything else,
I think so.
Is there something you'd like? It. Yeah, it is. It's just really, really good.
I just think it's neat.
Yeah. It's just the thing with the holding.
Yeah.
I just think it's neat. So Mandy, is there anything you want to promote?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll shout out my channel as per usual, mainly Mandy, spelled like the state of Maine, because I'm cool. And of course, feel free to follow me over on social medias. I don't have an X account because screw that, but I do have Instagram, which is where I'm mostly active. And I do have a video I'm working on right now that I'm hoping to have out probably like beginning of June right now, it's looking like, just because I got a little bit behind in my schedule. That's going to be talking about like silly, campy TV shows I love. Farscape's not on the list this time because that would be a whole video. That would be a whole 3 hours. There'll be some other smaller shows that I like. So if you enjoy hearing my takes on TV shows, that's a good video to check in on when that comes out.
And people who are actually in Maine can go see your stand-ups, can't they?
Yes. I post a lot of that stuff on Instagram. I have a few shows this summer coming up, and I'm also one of the volunteers for the Maine Comedy Festival, which will be, I think it's like the first or second week of September, somewhere in there. And that will allow me to also do some hosting and potentially be in some shows as well. So yeah, definitely feel free to go to my Instagram and check out what's coming up. And if you're in the area, come see me. I think I'm funny. People seem to like me.
I think you're funny.
Thank you. Yay! 2 people. Woo!
I know you've been working all winter. You've been working on some bits, so
I have, yes.
Yeah, so did go well at the comedy festivals. And thank you for coming to talk to us about this ridiculous joyous piece of art that we love.
Oh yeah, of course. As always, I love coming on here and talking about my favorite nerdy obsession. And yeah, this episode is just, yeah, like you said, it's just so joyful. It's just so fun. It's a really good character development and no, you said character check moment. Yeah, I really, it's great on every level. And also, who doesn't like watching cartoons? Like, it's great.
Yeah.
Amen.
And this is the sort of thing you wouldn't do in an 8 series. Like the whole debate nowadays about filler episodes.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a filler, but this is the sort of thing that you need, have a longer season to have, like, as a breather
Mm-hmm.
and as a character check and as a, something that does theme and character, but not plot. Like, yeah. Maybe there really isn't such a thing as a filler episode, just, different kinds of episodes.
Yeah, I could go on a whole rant about the discussion about filler episodes, but I won't because that would take another like half an hour probably. But
we'll come onto your podcast.
Okay, I'll start a podcast so we can do that.
Feel free to rant if you want, because we've talked much faster than expected. So
I mean, it's not very well formatted in my head or anything. It's just more like when it comes to the idea of what a filler episode is. I don't know. I think people seem to think if things aren't plot relevant or something, that makes it filler. And I don't think that's how TV shows work. TV shows aren't just about whatever plot's happening. There's also subplots. There's also character development. There's also world building. Like, there's a lot of things that an episode can be focused on. And to say that it's filler if it's not doing this, and then to also diminish that, even if it were true. Like, one of my favorite episodes of Avatar is the one where a bunch of the Fire Nation kids go to the beach and have fun. Like, that's a great episode.
It's
a great episode.
A filler episode in the sense that it's not really about the plot. It's not about anything important, I guess. But you get to see these characters like in a different environment, seeing that themselves shine through. What happens when you put Zuko on a beach? He's a little emo boy because that's Zuko. What happens when you put Azula in a social situation? Oh, she's not good at it. Like, I don't know. I like that because he's Azula. Yeah. So, like, what happens when you put Dargo in a situation where he almost kills his friend and things aren't great? Well, he's going to process it and get through the other side. What's John doing? He's going to process it through cartoons. Like, I don't know. I think it's still a great episode. And a lot of the filler episode discourse has just been really not interesting, in my opinion. Like, I've ignored a lot of it because I just don't think it's
very like the Star Wars bros and just a lot of film bros in general. Being like, it's just filler episodes. Like, what's even the point of it? And like, then, like, do you not like these characters? Is that what I'm hearing? Like, you don't enjoy getting to spend time with these characters in this fictional world? Is that what I'm hearing? You only want to be told the story that you think should be crafted how you want it to be crafted? Then go write something.
Yeah, I think it's like, especially as we're on the subject of Looney Tunes and stuff and music, a symphony has acts and requires, changes in tempo. There are slow bits and there are fast bits, and it just builds to a thing. And I think when you condense it and you take out all the ups and downs, it's just like, I don't know that I want, I don't know that I want an entire symphony of techno music where it's all all totally, at the highest crescendo. Yes, like, that works on some things, some short things for some things, but like, that's not, I don't want all music to be that. I want symphonies that go down and up and give us the thing and build to something. You need time and you need, like, different kinds of expression to build something that's really, you could really sink your teeth into. And as much as I'm loving season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, because they're finding ways to do that, it is a song, and I want it to be a symphony. I want it like, yes, the only thing I'm saying is it's very good. I want it expanded over some time so we get, like, to fully get into it and dig into it. And it's a great song, but if we could do the old-fashioned longer ones, we'd get a symphony. So
I think there's definitely shows that have made the short season format still work symphonically. To me, it's not a question of like, should a season be short or should it be long? It's a question of, am I writing characters or am I writing a plot? And if I'm writing a plot, then I'm going to stay away from filler episodes. I'm going to stay away from episodes where the characters have to deal with, plumbing issues in their house or whatever. But if I'm writing characters, then I'm going to let my characters exist in a world where they can breathe and learn and grow and stub their toes.
Yeah, I think ultimately what we come to is there is no one way of doing things. Sometimes you want a techno song, sometimes you want a symphony, sometimes you want something to be short and sweet, and sometimes you want it to be long and involved. And I think the problem is capitalism wants to give us the one size fits all.
Right. And I mean, sometimes you want to see your favorite characters solving a very important, serious situation. And sometimes you want to see them dealing with cartoons because that's just fun too. And that's okay.
And sometimes you want a plot solution that involves finding your quota blade and sticking it in a slot.
I was watching, I always want that. I was watching, all the Marvel movies as they were coming out. And when we got to Captain America Civil War, and we get to the climactic fight towards the end of, spoilers, I guess, for a 10-year-old movie. But we get to the climactic fight at the end among Iron Man, Captain America, and Bucky. And what kicks it off, of course, is this perceived betrayal and this huge, final nail in the coffin of a fracture or whatever. And Iron Man has this, and Captain America have this exchange where, Captain America is standing between Iron Man and Bucky, and Captain America is like, he's my friend. And Iron Man gets this really dramatic, lingering moment where he goes, so was I. And I was in the theater and I almost shouted, when? Like, when the fuck did we get to see this friendship? I've watched every movie up until this point. We never got to see a friendship between these two. We only ever saw them in conflict. We only ever saw them having ideological disagreements. If only there'd been some sort of a filler kind of opportunity for storytelling.
A day where Iron Man and Captain America went shopping in the mall or something.
Road trip.
Yeah, road trip.
We're shoulder to shoulder and not doing this teeth clenched, I guess we have to work together to save the world kind of a thing.
Yeah, because there's more friendship development in the beginning of Endgame with him and Nebula playing the football game, which should have come back in the climax.
There were more than a few I thought they were setting things up for the climax in both of those films that they did not fall through on.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, yes, we could have done with a Iron Man and Captain America do Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
Yeah. I'd watch that.
They spent most of the first Avengers film at each other's throats. They spent most of the second Avengers film at each other's throats. And then in Civil War, we're expected to believe that this is some kind of tragedy, like Brutus and Caesar.
You can have an antagonistic relationship that becomes friendship or becomes that sort of enemies to lover thing, but you didn't show us the bit where that transforms.
Yeah. Anyways, this is me. Mandy, you have a rant. I have a rant. We all have rants. It's okay.
We all have rants. I love it.
Well, we spent most of the recording going, we love it, we love it, we love it. So let's then a little bit about
balance,
a little bit of doing the actual critic thing and being like, yeah, we love it, and other things need more of this.
Skip ahead to hear our rant about filler.
I actually just thought about one thing that I don't like, and I do consider this a filler episode. When they do an episode where they keep flashing back to other episodes, that drives me crazy. I hate that.
We're not doing clip shows.
Drives me up a wall. I shouldn't say crazy, but that is an actual filler episode, and those ones are boring. I don't like those.
You can occasionally make it work, and I think the Farscape incorporates clip shows and incorporates a bit of clips in a way that works.
Does it really? Because
when they do it with the Aurora chair.
Yeah, to me that's not a clip show though. Yeah.
But it's incorporating the clip thing, which you're trying to do in a clip show, into a plot. If you can find a way to do that, it works. But not like the closest, like the, there's the one which is similar to this episode, where Riker is trying to find the will to live, and instead of doing anything interesting with it, they just do clips.
That's a clip show.
Yeah, that's more what I'm talking about, is that kind of thing. Like,
you can have flashbacks.
Yeah,
that's
Mandy, fine.
You go.
I'm sorry. I think we're both there at the same time. We both are having. Yeah, when I think of like I don't mind flashbacks. I don't mind like, oh, here's this, because like the Aurora chair is like quickly flashing little bits at you, and these very short segments. The episodes where they just do long, like they'll do montages without barely any plot around it, that I can't handle. Like there's an episode of Scrubs where they have a character who's, I think he tried to kill himself or something. And so they're all thinking about like their best and worst time. So it's just montage after montage after montage of like, hey, remember this on Scrubs? Remember this on Scrubs? Remember this on Scrubs? Here's every time JD fell down. Here's every time somebody had food in their hand. Like it's that. And like they kind of make a joke in the episode about like, it's sort of like when a sitcom runs out of ideas and decides to just show a bunch of montages. Like they kind of self-reference it in the episode, but it still doesn't work as an episode. I get to that episode, I skip it. I do that in any show where they do that. It's usually sitcoms, but so the Aurora chair thing works, but
Stargate kind of does somewhere in between that and the Aurora chair, where they will have like, we're briefing the International Council because we just have so very many, so much backstory. Right. We need to, that every season or so right before we go to the climax, we need to remind you of a few things. And so it's sort of like, it's some plot along with, but and nowadays when you're binging an episode, it's like, okay, this is annoying. But I think if you were watching it as it comes out, it's a bit fillery, but it's still kind of it's in that.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Binging television on streaming is a lot different now than it used to be when things were like in syndication. You'd have to wait like a while before you got to certain plot points or whatever. So that's fair.
Yeah, but it's rather than just nothing, but when it's just like the Riker one is probably the worst example, and it's because of the writer's strike that happened at the time that they just had to do something.
There's a great episode of Frasier where the joke is we're definitely not doing a clip show, and like Mark, the dad starts to tell a story and he kind of leans back and does the sitcom thing, gets a far off look in his eye. He's like, I remember it just like it was yesterday. And you hear the like harp, music off to the side. And like, you realize after a second that all the characters hear it too. And they all look over at the harpist that they hired for the party that night. And she's like, oh, sorry, I was just warming up. It's like one of my favorite jokes in that show.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's or in the Stargate 2000 one, where they start doing flashbacks to episodes that didn't happen in the 200 episode.
Yeah.
Or the ones we never saw. But
is that the episode? I've never actually watched Stargate, the show. I've only ever seen the like original movie. Is that but I have heard that, I know there's an episode where somebody is like recalling things and they keep being like, I don't think that happened, or I think that was a different show. And there's a reference to Farscape in it. Is that episode? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that clip, because of course I had to see that clip, but
same. There's a Star Trek reference in there too. So obviously that was there.
I think I know what podcast I want to do with Mandy.
Oh.
And that's how she got me, Mandy.
Okay. I see. That's the trick. Okay.
It is, yeah.
Got me.
No, Stargate is awesome. And they some of their clippy ones work better than others. There's one that puts it in this whole other story and that works, and then there's a bunch of times where they're like briefing some guy that it's like maybe not, but they try to incorporate actual plot along with it, so it's not just Riker needs to remember what he's living for.
One of the best clip shows that is not that works really well is also from Avatar, and it's the Ember Island Players. Because it's a clip show without doing a clip show, and it also
I do like that episode. That's great.
It also sets up some character plot points, and it even does foreshadowing, like at the end of the play, like it foreshadows the finale, and it's just hilarious all throughout.
And the best part is that they remember the most important character, the melon guy.
Yes.
Not the cabbages?
Oh, cabbage guy.
Cabbage guy.
Oh my God, I'm a fake fan. Oh, that's embarrassing.
Cabbages and melons are kind of like...
They're both round.
I can see where you were going there.
Yeah. Still. My cabbages. It's like burned in my skull. I can't believe I forgot that.
There's an alternate universe in which it was melons all along.
It was melons, yeah.
It was melons the whole time. That's
kind of like it's the Berenstein one is melons versus cabbages.
Yes, the candelabra effect.
There was a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom, I swear. Yeah.
They're round and roughly the same color.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are we doing?
I think the conclusion that we're coming to is that if you write good, you can do a clip show. If you write good, you can do anything. But there's always a way to write it badly. I think that's the conclusion here is just write well.
Write well.
Goodbye. Good.
I think that's it.
Well, turn into Nancy Reagan here and be like, just say no.
Just do
it. There's a thing that Terry Pratchett created this idea called narrativium, that in fictional worlds there is an element that's in the scientific table, the Dumpty Dump element, that's its atomic number is Dumpty Dump. And it is the element that makes everything else work. The narrativium. If you have a strong enough narrativium field, it makes the bus leap the thing. Right? We lack narrativium. So we have like the space for it in our head. So we're always filling in things with where we imagine the narrativium would go. So yeah, if you have a strong enough narrativium, it's a way of saying if you write it well enough, you can hold up a clip show.
You can do anything.
Okay.
So that I'll rearrange some of this madness to make it work.
Yeah, so we're not saying goodbye like 40 minutes before the end of the podcast.
Well, it's like we're wrapping up awfully quickly. So having done your little promoting yourself stuff, and thank you so much for joining us for this lovely episode. And do you want to tell the folks where they can find you?
Yes, so you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at Mainely Mandy, spelled like the state of Maine because I'm cool like that. I am also on like TikTok and Blue Sky, a couple other ones. I'm not on X anymore because through that. But you can find me on those places and please do.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. It's pretty cool. And at Josh Gosdin. Just, come on over if you want to hang out. It's a good time over there. We're just we're making sure that we're all taking care of each other, taking care of ourselves. And I also like to cook. Sara?
Yeah, that's very important. I'm Sara, the Fat Culture Critic. I am still on X, mostly because there's someone doing a watch of some of my favorite shows, and I find it entertaining. So I'm mostly using it as a read-only platform. Which is, and I'm on YouTube under the Fat Culture Critic, and I'm doing something coming up on June 20th. Some of us who do the Christmas Carol readings at Christmas will instead be reading Midsummer's Night's Dream on the summer solstice, and we'll be doing it as a fundraiser to raise funds. We'll pick a GoFundMe for a family in Gaza to help. And Mandy is going to join us as Ilmet by Moonlight Proud Titania.
Yes. Finally. I'm going to be a fairy queen.
Yeah, there's going to be several folks who visit, who are guests here who will be turning up. We have Vera Wild as Puck, and Ren the Barbarian, the YouTuber, will be one of the lover girls, as will Jesse Gender, and Bellamy is going to be the Fairy King, and
my husband.
Yes.
And Kyle Calgren is
going to be Bottom. Yes.
Bottom.
Yeah.
Two great partners. My polycule is amazing.
There it is.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it.
Yes, the fairy polycule. Yeah. So it should be a good fun, a good time, and raise money for a good cause. And yeah. So I am not sure what who will be joining us for choices, but I think probably someone who does is editing Sara, and we will go to her, and who will also tell us what the next Farscape adjacent episode, because we are doing filler episodes, will be. Editing Sara here, and we still don't have a confirmed guest for choices, but I promise we will on the day. As to the next episode in your feed, that will be a Farscape adjacent episode talking about the 2011 film The Muppets that stars Jason Segel and Amy Adams, and my guest for that episode will be Terry Roberts from The Pink Dumbbell Problem. So, yeah. This was a blast, and man, I love science fiction.
That's all, folks.
There it is.
Yeah, that's the end.
I was gonna see who. I'll leave a pause and see who does that.
Yeah.
I was like, I think she's setting us up. I think she's setting one of us up right now.
It might be, yeah. Thanks, everybody. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
That's all, folks.
God, I love science fiction.
There's a really great one where Bugs has to impersonate an orchestra conductor.
Oh yes, and he leaves the hands floating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just
leaving
and the bib rolls up.
Yeah, the guy's
Yep.
just suffocating. It's fantastic.
He keeps
Poor
going.
memory.
I mean,
He does.
credit to that guy.
Committed to his craft.
He's a true professional.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you that last paragraph of yours was unexpectedly dirty, Sara.
Yeah, Josh and I were like kind of making eye contact, but then like looking away because we were both starting to laugh.
Can't.
Well, it's
Inserting
Muppet
his
Sex and
Quilter
Trauma.
blade, huh?
Well,
yeah, and it takes control, huh?
Mm.
Yeah, I realized that when I was writing it, but like, I don't know how to write it any other way, and it's Muppet Sex and Drama, so what the hell?
Yeah.
The word insert has just been ruined by middle school.
Yeah.